I have a question about your decision to distribute on the Shopify platform, right? Because this is one thing that I've read from many people, that when you're deciding to like go big on one platform, there's always the risk. There's always a platform risk. You never know when they might ban you for whatever reason. You never know when they might deplatform you for whatever reason. What were your thoughts about like putting all of your eggs in the Shopify basket per se? How are you thinking about it, and how are you trying to maybe mitigate those risks, if you were at all?
Especially in the early days. So everyone, when that's the difference, when you want to build a unicorn and you have that mindset from the very start, you probably would not take that decision, right? I was a person who didn't have any money, right? So making $100 or $1,000 was a big enough thing, and that for that platform risk wasn't really important, right? Like the idea was that, hey, gets at least some customers who would love you, and when you have grown big enough, then it becomes a legit problem. It's a right problem also. But then you can always diversify, right? There is not a single. There is more platforms like BigCommerce, Magento, WooCommerce, where you could start scaling and start diversifying. You could go into more channels, from push notification to SMS to email, etc. So there's always more avenues of growth.
No, I think you've misunderstood my question a bit. So what I'm trying to say is, okay, I read this post yesterday on Twitter. I forgot the guy's name.
Ryan.
Yes. I like how you immediately got who I was talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I was saying was that this guy, Ryan, he had a thread the other day about how he got deplatformed by Shopify because he built a product which was checkout, right?
Correct.
And eventually Shopify built that back into their own product. I clearly remember a few years ago when I used to use MailChimp on Shopify, and then suddenly I get an email from MailChimp saying that like, hey, we're not supporting Shopify anymore. And that was a big like annoyance and big issue. And the reason, a big part of the reason for that was because Shopify wants building their own marketing tools in-house. And push notifications seems like something that is natural for Shopify want to build internally as well. So my question was around that, like how are you mitigating the risk of maybe Shopify wanting to build push notifications internally into the Shopify product itself, and then your product would not be needed?
It's a very legit risk. I mean, what Ryan pointed out is a platform risk, and it comes in any platform you build, whether Twitter or people talked about Apple, Shopify, and I won't deny that it's there. The only way you could probably mitigate, as I said, you could diversify. You can keep your options open, right? And it's not that your product only works on Shopify and there's no way for you to diversify. That's what I was saying. Like, hey, you have an option of, if you build a checkout product just for Shopify, you're heavily tied on Shopify, right? But if you build a generic headless platform like Shogun did, right? So while you still maintain a very healthy revenue on a platform, but you still have other channels like BigCommerce, WooCommerce, etc. to grow. Or if for example, what Klaviyo does email, right? But they also now have SMS. So in case now Shopify has launched an email product, so you have diversified by doing that product angle over here. So ensuring that whatever you're building has could have more ways to grow is a way to mitigate it. But then you will see a lot of apps which are heavily tied. For example, I was just talking before this call to a person who does tag automation. Like in Shopify, there's a concept of tags and you can automate. Now that's a product set which is heavily dependent on Shopify as a whole. You can't go to BigCommerce because they probably won't have a tag system, right? So those things heavily become at the risk. But when probably in our case, we knew push notifications could work on any generic website. So if we grow enough, at least early days, you don't have to take, because platform itself is busy with doing a lot of work. When you are also growing big, the attention will start falling to you, because it makes sense to have a push notification inside Shopify because a lot of customers need it, right? So by that time, you have also gone into other platform, or you have also gone feature deep, because a platform will only build very basic features. Shopify also says that we'll build those features, but we'll build it for 80% of our user base. They probably don't need so much complication like segmentation, etc. Which for that they would still use. Like they use Klaviyo, even the Shopify has email.